Good morning. So, I'm going to vlog. I am currently 17.9. I don't know why it says 0.9. I am currently 18 weeks out from starting my competition prep for 2024. I was going to say 2023 then, but it's definitely 2024. So, that's where we are in terms of the off season. I have just come out of my diet and I'm feeling fantastic. Today I'm going to show you a little bit of a day in the life of Meg. Not just kind of what you see behind the lens when someone else films, but more so when I film. So if the editing and whatnot isn't quite as good, I do apologise. But I want to show the day in the life of me. Not so much just the training, but just kind of the day-to-day of what I do as a bodybuilder, how I work, how I get things done as kind of an online coach as well as obviously a bodybuilder, because I think that lots of people are a little bit nervous to potentially get coached by someone who isn't just a full-time coach. But I think that if someone is doing it alongside their bodybuilding, the majority of people aren't doing it for the money. They are doing it because they actually really do care and they want someone to be able to learn from the things that they've potentially done wrong or what's gone wrong in their journey, and be able to obviously not make those mistakes like what they have, so that they can have a little bit more of a positive journey, still learn lessons, but still obviously learn from them. So that is what I'm going to do today. It is currently 5:45. I've been up for like 15 minutes. What I've done so far is get myself a little drink with some glutamine. I also have creatine in here. I also have some liquid vitamin D because the weather is terrible in the UK. It's like July the 24th and it is like what it's like in November, which is terrible. And I also have a little black coffee. Obviously, a nice black coffee in the morning helps give you that little bit of extra buzziness. But also, if you're anyone that struggles to go to the toilet, it obviously will help you go to the toilet as well, instead of using 50 million different fibre supplements in the world. So that's what I am doing. That's what I've done so far. I'm just about to start my first work block, which will be 2 hours long, well, an hour and a half long, before I go for a little walk with my little dog accomplice, Xena. Cooper will go with Caesar. So yeah, I'm going to vlog today. Hopefully you enjoy it. So I'll see you in a bit. So, post-show and kind of pre-contest. Post-show is really difficult. It's really hard to sometimes be able to stick to plan because that want is there. Like really, that want is there to eat more foods, etc. We've all been there, like as coaches, most people will have competed. If not, then potentially they have experience in other fields. But that want's always there. Don't try to put kind of pros or other people that have been doing it for a long time on a pedestal because they can stick to plan post-show, because they've all been there. They've always had them wants, needs. Most people will have deviated from plan post competition prep in their first kind of parts of when they were a bodybuilder to begin with. I definitely did. My first post show went really wrong. That's why I like to teach. I like to learn. I like to coach people because it allows for me to pass on the things that I've done mistakes with and pass them on. And you get better at it over time. The more you do it, the less pressure you put on it, and the more it becomes part of your life that you enjoy. You enjoy the training, you enjoy the eating, etc. The better it does become. Like, it just feels like it's smooth and doesn't feel like it's a chore. And I think that's really, really, really important. But if you are struggling and suffering with things like that, make sure that you're speaking to your coach, because that's what they're there for. They are there for support. And make sure you're tapping into them at all times when you do need that.
You don't want this to turn into a mini contest. You want to make sure that we get
So my check-in's done. I've just done my actual check-in on here. So on the actual online forms that we do have, where we track kind of body weight, how we're feeling each day, resting heart rate, all the different variables that obviously come into play when it comes to growing and cutting, including steps, etc. I like to still track, even though obviously Kuru is my coach. I still do a normal check-in, as a client with pictures and send it to him so that we can compare rather than doing it in person, etc. I think it's a great way for me to be able to track, and I love stuff like that. So I'll let you know what Koo says when he replies to my check-in, and then we can take it from there. I'm going to go and have breakfast now that was made by Cuba.
Noticeable drop.
So it's time for work block 2. Just finished breakfast, then I will go downstairs in a little while and do some cooking and preparing for some foods a little bit later into the day, so I'll take you with me. I'll try not to make it like a full day of eating because I'm sure that you've seen plenty of that and there's a few videos of that, but I will show some eating because I know that people like that. So work block 2. I like to always make sure that I work in blocks because that's what I used to do when I worked kind of 9 to 5. It's what I did when I was teaching. So if you don't know, that's what I qualified as, a PE teacher. So we had blocks of work when we were working, when we had like time for a break or time for a lunch hour or time when we were marking, etc. So try to do that when it comes to online coaching as well, because it's how it allows for it to fit into your day, not create stress. Clients get really great replies because then obviously you're productive for your work because you've got those blocks, you know when you're working, etc, etc. It really helps mentally. So if you're an online coach or anything at all when it comes to being self-employed, don't treat it as you can do whatever you want, because it's not. You need to be on it, you need to be working when it's time to work, and work blocks really do help with that for me. So obviously majority of check-ins are done. I've got 2 more check-ins to complete, and then it'll be time to do things like form clip replies, etc, and we'll go through that in a little while. Hello, so I have made the entry workouts, which is 25 grams of MPS from Train by JP, and then the carbs is the Sustain by Train by JP. So we're currently using the peach iced tea MPS, and then the Berry Burst Sustain as well. So it is now time for meal 2, which is going to be, for me, 50 grams of rice, 100 grams of pineapple, and then some steak as well, but I'll show it you on the pan. But I've done my, I've had my check-in feedback. Kuba's very happy. We're going to add in assistance from today, just because obviously prep is going to start in 17 weeks, so we want to have some time off before prep begins, because we'll do a small cycle at the start of prep and then obviously at the end of prep. I haven't touched assistance since January. I actually stopped my cycle early because I started to see some sides that I didn't like, so I pulled that out because I don't like that. I'm always very honest when it comes to assistance. My cycle will just be 6 weeks long on this one. Obviously all updates of specific and specificities when it comes to stuff like that is always on my JP forum, so please always make sure you have a little look at that if you do want to know the ins and out details of that. But yeah, Kuba is very happy, condition is nice. We don't want to get too fat when it comes to this off-season phase. Obviously we've had this reset now for 10 weeks, so I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly what we can do in this little bit of a push phase before we start prep. Hopefully add some real good size again before we start. I'm never going to be the biggest on stage, but that's fine. I do it for me and I do it for my own journey, and I do it based upon me and my own kind of ability to grow. So focus on you, and that's the most important thing. But I'll go through things a little bit more in a little while. It is now time for meal 2. Okay, so just finished meal 2, and I'm going to move on to work block number 3. Obviously I've already said why I do work blocks, just to obviously make sure that things stay productive and so that everything that gets or needs to be done in the day gets done. So on to work block 3, which for me is either usually some more kind of form clips or client kind of feedback that's come back off the check-ins that we can obviously have a little conversation about. at the moment I've got quite a few people competing, so it's about making sure that they're feeling really calm and really happy with everything they need to be doing with their days and process the closer they get to show day. I've got one client competing in a regional show here in the UK this weekend called Agnes. She did fitness last year. She did really well. There isn't a lot of competitors that do it, so she didn't manage to stand on stage next to lots of people this last time. So obviously you're going to do figure this time, so there should be a little bit more, or a few more people that are obviously going to compete alongside her, which I know that she's really excited for. But making sure she's feeling really good and really ready is super important. And I also use this work block for if I have a new client that's obviously going to be starting, to obviously be able to create their plans as well, so that obviously everything gets well thought out, well processed, before obviously sending it over to them. Before starting with a client, I really like to have a consult call. I know that not everybody likes to have one, and even from like a competitor point of view or a lifestyle client point of view, people do sometimes a little bit worried to speak on the phone. But I think it's a really nice way. You get to know the voice, you get to know the person, you get to ask questions, you get to understand about their life, they get to ask you questions about the way in which things will work, because then it calms their nerves, they feel really good, and you can really make a plan of attack as to what progression you want to achieve together, and obviously how you are going to be able to do that together as well. So today is about creating a training plan for a lady who is just starting with me, who is a amateur bikini lady here in the UK. I'm going to be focusing heavily on getting her health back into a really good spot, because her thyroid is completely through the floor. So it's really important that we give it that support, we give it the foods, the body the foods that it needs to help and recover and repair that body before the next time we actually decide to go into a competition, because it's very important to take health really seriously, from a female and a male perspective. It's not just always females that obviously have the problem, it's also males as well. So we're going to be doing that. And then obviously right now it's about making her training program. There's a massive debate, isn't there, about what's better, high volume or low volume. Obviously I'm super passionate about training to failure, making sure that obviously volume is allocated specifically for that individual. I'm not going to call it super low volume, because I don't do super low volume. There's some sets where volume is quite high, there's some exercises where volume is low. Again, just depends on that person's individual needs, but I think it's really important as a coach to stick with the style of training that you have a real passion for, because I think that cross translates into the way in which you give feedback, because I love to be able to be involved in my clients' training, getting the form feedback, making sure that obviously we can work through that together, coming in, see me in person if there's an ability to be able to do that, so we can make sure that training is perfect, because it really does make a huge difference to someone's physique if they train really well with good form, regardless of what style of training it is. But I always make sure that the training volume is based upon that person, how well they can train to failure, how intense they are when they do train, how or what they do for a living, how well they recover, just off the conversations that we have when we're on the phone. And obviously over time it's adaptive, like we may find that that's too much volume, we may find that that's too little volume, and it will be adapted over time to make sure that everything's perfect for that individual client. So that's what this hour is about, and then it'll be time for pre-workout meal. Okay, so pre-workout meal about to go now, just making it now. I was just thinking about something, and bodybuilding gets a lot of bad press. Bodybuilding, yes, obviously at times it's a little bit unhealthy in that pushing and pulling of the calories can, even as a natural athlete, can obviously affect your hormones, especially with how excessive we push and how much we pull back. Like there's definitely parts of it that are a little bit unhealthy. You could probably say that for a lot of sports, with what it does to kind of the bodies, especially when it comes to kind of injuries and illnesses and stuff that sometimes comes alongside doing elite sport. But there's a lot of great things that you can get from becoming a bodybuilder. You learn discipline, you learn how to push yourself out of a comfortable position into an uncomfortable position that can obviously lead to something that can be successful. You can learn exactly how in which you can obviously lead a healthy and fit lifestyle. Yes, you wouldn't obviously push and pull the calories as much as what you would do in a bodybuilding environment in a normal life setting. You learn how you function as a person, how to better yourself, how to improve yourself daily. You learn how to create a routine. You learn how to be disciplined to something. You learn how to function well as a person and push yourself. And even if you're someone who doesn't work for yourself, or someone that doesn't want to be an entrepreneur or anything like that, it just forces you outside of that box. And I think there's so many positives that you can think of, that you can thank bodybuilding for, and not forever it being a negative thing and kind of, I'm so glad that I'm out of it and I'm free. And they're the types of things that people do say, because if it is something that's a chore and you feel like you're trapped, don't do it. Like, yeah, it's not for you. But for a lot of people, it is a positive. And sometimes actual bodybuilding can set people free, and it can stop them from being doubtful. It can really improve their life. It can really make them more confident. It can do so many different things. So if you are someone that's worried to try because there's so many negative things out there, try it, because you actually might find that it is a positive. And if you are someone who says negative things about it, and you obviously chose to follow someone's guidance that probably wasn't really positive and wasn't very health conscious, or you made some bad decisions, own up to those things as to why potentially bodybuilding wasn't quite so positive for you, so that other people can learn from that, because sometimes it is that route as to why things potentially wasn't quite so positive, and people can learn from that, get better, and not make those same mistakes that you did. So try to always push the positives and make people aware of the negatives and the lessons that you could potentially learn from it as well. I definitely forgot to say that I'd had my pre-workout meal and that I was coming to the gym. Anyway, we're at the gym, UltraFlex gym, Rotherham, and we're in for a push session. Probably not going to show you it because you've seen too much training, but that's what we're doing. Okay, so just finished my session. It was a push session, it was really good. I'm not going to show you any training like I said today, because I think that you see enough of that. But the food is definitely doing what it needs to, definitely feel much fuller, much rounder, much better all round. I've got the pleasure of carrying my client, Harry Sexton, who's an IFBB Bikini Pro, who's going to be competing in 16 weeks. So just going to do a little in-person check-in with her, double check over her person as well, and see what else we need to do in regards to pushing things along to make sure that she's absolutely perfect in 16 weeks time. Even the days you were already way leaner. Yeah. Lovely. Let's go. Perfect. Very nice. I'm happy to have the feet wider, but just don't let the toes turn out, otherwise you see a bit too much. So I am back home. This quality is not very good, but it is what it is. With the dog. I don't know why he's sat in his cage, but he loves it in there. But everybody wanted to see the dogs, so obviously they just made a little appearance. Zena! Scenes! And this is the little girl. She's a little creeper. She loves tickles. Loves them. Anyway, that is the end of my video. Hope that you enjoyed my spiels this morning with chatting. She's backing up on me and pushing me as the dog. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed the spiels of me talking about all things kind of coaching and stuff. And I will be back with another vlog, whatever it's called, vlog, super soon. I promise. I'm going to try and do them at least every 3 weeks to 4 weeks as we get closer and closer to prep. So 17 weeks out to prep, and then we'll start the prep vlogs as well.